Hello and welcome. We here at Orange Dragon Gaming have decided it'd be a good idea for each member of the team to be interviewed by one of the other members of the team. So that way, when Pokemon gets back to normal, you'll recognize us and know a little bit more about us. So we're going to talk a bit about Pokemon. We're going to talk about life and goals for us and the team. So with me today is one of the original members of Orange Dragon Gaming. Practically half the reason that this thing even exists would be one Bradford Iliad Fishwickle the Fourth.
Oh, God, that name is hilarious. I hate it so much.
Oh, that's from another life almost. Several venues and leagues and such ago.
That was 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was a good old Flatland back when that was still a thing. So we'll get rolling here with our first question of the 20 questions that we're playing today. Tell us who you are, your accomplishments in the trading card game, and what your favorite Pokemon is and why.
I'm Brad Fishwick. My favorite Pokemon is Gengar. There's not much of a reason why. It's been forever Gengar since the ancient times. It might have been partly because of the Gengar Ghost episode of the anime. I honestly don't.
Okay, that's
I've
fair.
always just liked Gengar. My accomplishments are not particularly great overall. I have a handful of top 8s at Cups. I've gotten a couple top 64s like way back in the day before they actually meant anything at a couple regionals. And I've won one cup. I've won a handful of league challenges. That's about it. I've
Right.
beaten some notable players, but not anything like to brag about.
Gotcha. What got you into Pokemon in general? Like, was it somebody was playing a video game, you went over their house, you caught the anime before school? What was it?
Back in the day, I watched the anime when it was new, and I got the cards when they were new, and
What's that?
base set.
They said,
I
okay.
like they were like brand new. Like cards were a new thing.
Right.
I ended up getting cards back then. I got the video game maybe a year after the game came out. I probably got the game around the same time that the anime and the cards were releasing because they came out a little bit later.
Do you get
But not
red version or blue version then?
I got red and yellow.
You got red and yellow. Okay.
I think I got the games when yellow version came out.
Okay.
Because I got yellow version new, and then I bought red used from a Blockbuster.
Oh wow, Blockbuster. That's when those
Yeah.
things you kids will never know about.
That's a lot of people my age don't know about.
This is true. Yeah. Making me feel old. I remember when that was a staple of Friday night.
Oh man, I had a Blockbuster that was kitty corner to my neighborhood,
Ooh.
and it closed literally like the year before I was like old enough to actually like spend my own money and ride my bike places.
Gotcha.
And it was so sad because it's like I could ride my bike to the no, it's closed.
Nope. All right, so we'll go on to the next question. What about the Pokemon community has kept you involved in the game for as long as you've played?
I don't know if it's anything about the community itself, more or less just the game is just so fun. I'm a very competitive person. I enjoy competing in things. And because this doesn't take dexterity or physical abilities, I can actually participate and do reasonably well.
That's understandable, absolutely. So outside of Pokemon, what do you do for fun outside of Pokemon?
Play a lot of video games.
Anything specific?
Sometimes ball. If it's a video game, I've probably at least tried it. To some degree.
Right.
I mostly play like Smash Brothers and like shooters. But I play a variety of things. Like I enjoy story games. I enjoy card games. I enjoy like RPGs.
Okay, so if it's a game, you've at least dipped your toe in the water.
Yeah, I try a lot of games. I play a lot of games. If it's a competitive-ish game like Smash Brothers or like online shooters, they're the games I'll put the most time into because they're never ending. I'm just gonna compete.
Right on. So now we're gonna kind of shift over to more Pokemon trading card game centric questions. is there a card type you would like to see either reintroduced into the game, like a Pokemon SP level X's, stuff like that, or a new type of card brought into the game? And what would the answer there be?
Um, I don't know enough about how the old cards worked, like the SPs and whatnot.
Just
Or
think
like
about them as
level
though
X's or something.
the way to think about
Like,
them is they were basically EXs and GXs before there were EXs and GXs. They were
yeah, I know
that
they
kind
had
of.
similar functions to a lot of the newer versions of
Mhm.
those same cards, but I don't know exactly which did what and how. I know how the original EXs functioned because
Yeah.
that was when I was still playing from back in the day.
Okay, so
Or I
the EX
stopped.
era.
Like I stopped playing with my friends back then around the Ruby Sapphire
Okay, yeah.
era, so I'd had some EXs from back then, but not much. Realistically, the only like type of cards I really have enjoyed that were like a special type of card were the modern day prisms. I just feel
Okay.
like they didn't do a good job with.
So you would say that they would have needed to kind of beef up the Prism Stars a little bit.
Yeah, I think they should have made the prisms better. If you can only have one of that specific card in the deck, they should have been like on at the same level as like the ace specs were
Okay,
back
just
during
absolutely
like a white
broken
era,
cards.
where it's like not even like absolutely broken. Like realistically, I don't think Dowsing Machine was absolutely broken.
What made it broken was that Sableye was printed in a format that could
Well,
abuse
yeah,
it.
yes, yes. The only reason why something like that was broken was because there were things that could abuse it. Like Life Dew was not broken in any way except for with Sableye.
Sableye.
Like, but it was a good card even without the Sableye. But yeah, like if they didn't have something like that, those cards would be fine. But like with the prisms, because they get lost zoned immediately, you can't have those broken combos.
Right.
So the cards should definitely be at least as good as those cards, if not slightly better. And I feel like most of the prisms just end up falling flat.
Yeah,
But I
like
like the premise of you only get one of it, and then it's lost zoned
yeah, it's
immediately
it's it's
after
very
it's gone.
reminiscent of Yu-Gi-Oh's what do they call them? Limiteds, where you're only allowed one in a deck. I can't remember all the
Yeah,
terminology, but it's very reminiscent of that, where cards that were just deemed too powerful to have multiple copies in a deck. I would
right.
like to.
I just felt like none of those prism cards were powerful enough to warrant only one of
Yeah,
that
the only
copy.
one,
Except
the
for
only
maybe
one I could see
Jirachi
being
Prism.
Jirachi Prism. No, like Tapu Koko Prism. That's the only one I could see. If you were able to play multiple copies or reuse it more than once, that would be absolutely stupid.
Yeah, okay.
That'd
That
be
and
that'd be
maybe
the one.
Victini Prism could be another one that, like, more than one could be kind of dangerous for
Yes.
the format. But other than those two, which were two of the later ones printed,
Yep.
like, most of those Prism sets
Shaman
just
Prism,
weren't
for instance, is
particularly
just
good.
very weak.
And
Like
none
it,
of the supporters Prisms were very good.
yeah, Lance.
And then Lance was really the only one that actually had any decent utilization.
Yeah, but that was it.
Yeah.
Next question: what is your favorite format to play and why? So standard, expanded, unlimited, legacy.
That's a hard question. Um, Realistically, probably expanded.
Any particular
Partly,
reason?
partly nostalgia reasons. I just enjoy some of the cards that are in the expanded format a lot, and I like to be able to play with them again. Um, it's also there's more variety in expanded.
There is.
There's a
There's
lot more.
definitely more
There's a lot
variety in
more.
expanded.
There's a lot more chaos. You can't go in. You won't go in knowing that these four decks are going to be the decks to beat because there's 14 decks in expanded that you go into knowing these are the decks you have to beat, and realistically, you can only match yourself up well against maybe 8 of them, and you have to hope you either dodge the other 5 or so, or hope you can at least squeak by with a 50-50 and outplay them. And I just love it because it makes it so it's like there's no clear cut deck to play. You play what's fun and well tested, and you just go with it.
Are you in more favor of a more simplistic format a la black and white into the early days of XY, or something a little more complex as to what we have now, and even further beyond that, where we consider it extreme complexity by comparison to the Diamond Pearl Platinum format? What would your kind of preferred situation be there?
As fun as it is to play a deck like Turbo Lugia that's just like super brain dead and you just go fast and hit hard,
Right?
I prefer the complexity of the format. Very much for the same reasons why I prefer expanded over standard. just I like having more options. I like the random rogue deck to actually be a reasonable choice, because it's more fun when you don't know what to expect.
I would agree
I
with
play
that.
the more complex decks in current standard just because they're more fun to play, like Shid Ninja or Control of any variety or Lucario Melmetal. It's like, on paper the deck may seem straightforward, but it's still, there's a lot of actions. Like my favorite deck, one of my absolute favorite decks of all time at this point is Decidueye Zoroark, which is probably the most complicated Zoroark deck you could have ever possibly played.
I agree.
And I had a lot of success with it, even when a lot of people gave up on the deck for it being "quote unquote" too slow. It's like, no, you just have to learn how to actually play the deck efficiently, and you can win a lot of these, in theory, bad matchups.
Yep.
Like Blacephalon was a 50-50. As bad as that matchup looked like on paper, that was a 50-50.
Agreed. Because you could build up the damage and you can make it work. But we can get into that in a couple more questions when we get down into that part. So the next one is, when you're constructing a deck, what is your nuance to deck building? Are you the type that's going consistency? Are you teching out a deck? Like, what do you value the most? What do you put the most emphasis on when you're constructing a deck?
I don't know. I am inconsistent when it comes to what I focus on in a deck. When I build a deck, I binder drop the deck and cut from there.
Okay, so just to explain to everybody else,
I literally go through every card in the format and pull them out of the boxes and the binders that I might want in this deck. And then at the end of that, I look at how many cards I have and decide what needs to go to make the deck actually function like a real deck. The largest number of cards I've had on the table when deck building was 100.
Just to put that in perspective for people,
40 cards out of a deck.
To
make it a legal deck.
There's been so many events where we'll be building something for a side event, for instance, and Brad will be like, "All right, we're gonna build this," and he just starts grabbing stuff, and he just covers the entire queen size bed in the hotel room, and it's just covered in cards. They're everywhere, and they're just like, "All right, how many do we have here? Okay, we got like 98." All right, well, we don't need this. We don't need this. Start just chucking stuff off the bed. All right, where are we at? 75. Crap, we still got to cut a fifth of this to make it work.
That's how I build it. Realistically, I try to make a consistent deck. I don't like teching against specific decks, because if you don't run into the deck, now you have useless cards. I want my cards to at least be universal. They can work in any matchup relatively well. That's how I generally try to build a deck.
Right.
But if I'm really expecting a certain meta, I'll tech the shit out of the deck, because I'm expecting a lot of whatever that thing is. Like back in the Avelto format, Avelto was rampant here,
yes,
and I definitely teched against it when I could.
Yep, everybody was playing 2 Enhanced Hammer in their deck regardless of what it was, because you had to slow down their damage output.
I played 4.
I know you did. So, next question here. What types of decks do you enjoy to play or main? So, like control style, mills, aggressives, memes, defensive. You tell us. What tends to be your playstyle?
I play all sorts of decks. Just like video games, I'll play just about anything. If it looks like it's fun, I'll give it a shot. And there was a period of time where like Turbo Lugia was like my deck. That's like all I played for a while. Then it transferred over to Seismitoad Hammers, which then converted over to Fighting Hammers with like
all the fighting buffs,
with the strong energy in the stadiums and all that. I've played Control, I've played Stall, I've played Mill, I've played Spread.
And that's another one.
My favorite deck of all time is probably Toadtina. That's tough to say though, because I still really enjoy like Turbo Lugia, TDK, and Decidueye Zoroark.
Okay,
like,
so
that's all great decks.
So that's 2 questions now. But since you're already kind of there, what was your favorite deck to play regardless of success? So like, what was the deck you just showed up to an event and you're like, I am going to have so much fun today because I get to play this.
I do that all the time. When I was actually trying to win, like legitimately trying while also having fun, Lucario Melmetal was a lot of fun.
Yes. I would agree.
Shid Ninja was a lot of fun. Zorak Decidueye was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Seismitoad was a lot of fun, although that format was a little wonky.
Yeah.
You had a lot of mirrors and some other weird matchups that made things a little less fun, but overall, a lot of fun. But some of the most fun I've ever had playing was when I built some random jank deck, because my thing was I go to a regional and actually try.
In the main event.
The main event. And then in the league challenge that followed the main event is my time to goof off. So for like 4 years, every regional that I would go to, I'd play in that second league challenge with some random nonsense that I literally built the day before.
Yep.
That probably no one has ever seen.
Nope.
The first deck that I ever showed up to like this was TDK Bats.
Yeah, because everybody knows what that is.
Well, see, Landorus Bats was what ended up winning that tournament. That's St. Louis that Mahone put Landy Bats on the map.
Yep.
And I was like, I like playing TDK, and it functions similar to Landorus.
It really does.
So let's put Bats in TDK and see how this functions. It didn't function.
Nope.
There was too many Pokemon.
Correct.
But it was funny, and that started that horrible trend.
Yes, it did.
One of the best ones that I ever built with Evan was Magnezone Cubed.
So
that was Dual Brains Magnezone.
Yep.
You played the Energy Flood Magnezone. I don't remember the ability name.
It was effectively Rain Dance Magnezone.
Yeah.
And then Magnezone EX.
So there was 3 different Magnezones in that deck for no reason. That deck was literally built because I enjoyed Magnezone Dual Brains.
2 supporters in a turn.
Because I built a deck with the Big Hands Goregeist, where I played Dual Brains Magnezone with it, and my goal was to like double Charon and double Terrano, because you could actually play both of those in the same deck.
Yes, you could.
So I just like draw 6, play roller skates, hope to hit heads, and just fill my hand really quickly. I was like, what else can I build with this terrible Magnezone? And then we built that, and that was hilarious and terrible, and I almost won a
Win-a-box, I think.
Yeah, it was a win-a-box. It was like 18 to 22 people.
Yep, it was pretty good. It was pretty good size.
It was a decent size event, and I lost in the final round because I got toad locked out of my rare candies.
Yep, that was the one. That was the one problem that we had with that deck. We just did not have room.
I played against an Yveltal that played 1 toad. They led that 1 toad. It was the worst case scenario.
Yeah,
but that deck was a lot of fun to play, just goofing around.
Absolutely.
And I've built so many. Like I showed up to a League Cup with Rotom.
Yep, I remember.
Got top 4 with it. That was dumb.
That was extremely dumb, especially the reason why I got second place at that cup was because of our own brain deadedness.
Yeah, you won that game anyway.
I did win game 1. Game 2, we resulted in us getting it would have been ruled a double game loss on both of us. So technically, Brad lost 3 times in that series. No, double game loss. No. Technically, I won the series with 1 win, 1 loss. I won the series with 1 win, 1 loss, and Brad lost with 2 losses. It was technically that's how that would have functioned. But we can get into that when it's my turn to get interviewed, because I'll have that story to tell. Next question is, what deck did you feel you had the most success with, and why? And success is by your definition. You don't actually have to mathematically break it down. I earned X amount of CP here and Y CP here. It's like, what did you feel the most successful with when you were playing it?
I'm gonna name 3 decks here because it's too hard to narrow it down.
Okay.
Back in the day, Seismitoad Slurpuff.
Okay.
It was the first deck that I actually won an event. I won a league challenge with it. It was the first deck that I actually got top 64 at a regional with, even though back then there was no prizing for top 64 and there was nothing for it.
Correct.
It also had probably the most, like, Seismitoad in general. I think it was more Totina, but it had one of the most consistent, like, top finishings where I, like, top 8'd, like, over half of the cities in the area one year, even though I didn't get points at half of them. The next deck would be Zorak Decidueye. Out of all of my decks, I think that is the deck I've earned the most CP with out of any of them.
Right.
I've probably topped the most cups with that deck ever. And then the third deck would be Lucario Yamamoto, because that's the deck I got my first cup win with.
Right. Next question. Do you travel frequently to events? And if so, do you have a favorite city you like to travel to or a favorite venue in particular? So I would break city and venue into two things because there's certain cities that suck but their venues are good and vice versa.
To be perfectly honest, I can't think of any venues that I truly hated or loved. Like, the venue in Columbus isn't terrible.
I disliked the walk, but that's just me.
But, like, the venue itself is not bad.
No.
And the venue at Indianapolis isn't bad. And, like, the only venue that I've really not enjoyed was when it was in Toronto. Like,
the one where we were, like, out beside the Canadian football stadium?
No.
Or the Kitchener one?
The Kitchener one. Where it was, like, in a big arcade area. It was like a big zap zone where they didn't have the laser tag, but the laser tag area was like a gaming area.
Okay.
And they would set up a bunch of tables and chairs in there. It's like attached to it was like a bowling alley and like an arcade. It was weird, and it was in the middle of nowhere. It's probably my least favorite venue that I've actually been at.
So favorite venue. So favorite city then, favorite city that you've traveled to as a result of Pokemon. Because you've been all over the place. You've been to at least one Worlds just as a visitor.
I've been to two Worlds as a visitor.
Okay, that's what I thought.
DC, and I went to Anaheim.
So like you have a further reach in that regard than I do.
Yeah, I've been to Anaheim for Worlds. I went to DC for Worlds this last year, and then I've been to Roanoke Regionals, Dallas, Collinsville, St. Louis when it was in St. Louis,
Fort Wayne,
Toronto, Kitchener,
Milwaukee, Madison.
Madison, not Milwaukee.
Yeah, Milwaukee would have been this year.
Yeah, I would have been at Milwaukee this year, but
that was last weekend. That would have been last weekend.
That would have been last weekend.
So again, favorite city then that you've been to. You only get one. You only get one.
I know.
Fork to the nose. What do you got to pick one?
I would have to say Anaheim.
Okay. Well, what made Anaheim so special?
There's just so much there. Like, just in California in general, but, like, just in that general area, like, there's just so much. The biggest problem is that because it's right next to Disneyland.
Traffic.
It's so expensive.
That too.
It's like all the food and everything is just really expensive because it's all right at Disneyland.
Okay.
But overall, the experience there was really good.
That's good. What was your favorite event that you attended? So you can go specific down to like year and city, or like NAIC or U.S. Nationals when they were still Nationals. You tell me.
I don't know. That's really hard. There's not a single event that I can just say like that was the best event that I've attended. Realistically, every time we've gone to Collinsville/St. Louis has been a blast.
It has. Collinsville
I have not
awesome.
had a bad experience at Collinsville or St. Louis. Like, even before you traveled with me,
right?
Like the year that I went with Zach.
Yeah.
Like, that was still so much fun.
Right on. What was the most fun you had in an event? Which is slightly different. So, like, it's like, like if you take, like, if you consider your fun, I did really, really well in the main event, or, man, me and the guys, we hung out and it was just freaking cool, whatever the case may be. What was the most fun that you had? As I know what mine is, but mine's going to come up in a later video.
Man, that's so hard because I have such a bad memory as to what specific events we did certain things at.
Well, I can help you fill in the gap.
No, but like I know like when we did things, but I don't know what other things correlated with that thing.
I gotcha.
One of my favorites was probably the cups that I ended up winning with Lucario Yamamoto.
Yeah. Because
I showed up with a deck that no one had ever heard of or really thought of, at least in our area.
Yeah.
As far as I know, anywhere, because I I think I was one of the first people who actually topped with that deck.
I think at that point in time, it had placed in like top 16 at Memphis regionals, but it had now been 5-6 months after that regional, and then here comes Brad with Lucario Melmetal.
No, I showed up with Lucario Melmetal the first quarter that the card was legal, and won with it. Because that was before.
Right. Okay.
Because it came out Q4 of 2019-2018 season.
Yeah.
And I showed up that quarter with it and topped with it. And I wasn't the only one who showed up at NAIC with it. But I was one of the first people who probably made a post with any results with that deck.
I believe that is the case, yes.
That was like a completely homebrew deck. I was playing like Wailord Steelix Stall before that. And I took that concept of the stall deck, and I took Lucario Melmetal and made an attacking Lucario Melmetal deck. And I showed up into a meta with Charizard, Reshiram, being one of the more popular-ish decks in our area.
Yep.
Like in our area, the popular decks were Reshizard, Pikarom, and Zapdos.
Yep.
And I built this deck, and I was like, I'm fairly certain it's at least 50-50 with Reshizard. And it has a favorable Pikarom matchup, and it hands down destroys Zapdos.
Yep, sure did.
And I showed up, and half the people there were like, what the hell is this? Why are you playing this terrible, terrible deck? Which is what I get most of the time.
Yeah, it is.
That's commonplace around here.
Yep.
Because I show up with all the crazy decks all the time. And then I went on a tear through Swiss and beat 2 Zapbeasts, lost to a Pikarom, beat a Pikarom, and beat a Reshizard. And then in top 8, I beat a Reshizard. No, I beat a Zapbeast. Then I beat a Aerodactyl.
Oh, yeah, the Aerodactyl.
Because that was the first event that Patrick showed up with Aerodactyl Dugong.
Yep, Aerodactyl Dugong.
And then I beat the same Pikarom that beat me in Swiss in the finals.
And that's always so sweet when you get to do something like that.
Yeah.
Good deal. So next one, what top players or content creators have inspired you to try new things in the game or opened your eyes to a different method of thinking for the game?
I don't really know. I don't really follow a lot of what the other content creators do for the game because either I don't find them entertaining or I don't really care about anyone else's opinions. I don't do a lot of net decking, so I usually just end up homebrewing some random nonsense or collaborating with friends like the ODG to make whatever deck that I'm going to show up with. Right. I've only really net decked a couple times where it's like, I'm tired of playing this deck, just like hand me a list, I'll build it and play it tomorrow.
Right.
And I literally will show up with no testing.
What was your favorite match against a top player, someone easily recognizable, and what happened?
Well, my favorite match against a top player...
I think I know the one.
You do know the one. It was this last year at the Nick Bailey Open. I was on stream against Daniel Altavia.
Yep.
I was playing my Lucario Metal deck, and he was playing like Zoroark Control-ish. It was like the Zoroark Dugong.
Yeah, it was the Checkmate deck.
It had a handful of techs.
Yeah, it was like Checkmate with more control elements.
Yeah. It was an interesting deck of his, but the problem with Zoroark is it literally had no way to deal with Lucario Melmetal that played hammers, could just resist everything, and I was teching in a Kukui, so I could actually two-shot a Zoroark with my Steel Fists for 50, and then
followed up with heavy impact.
Slam,
heavy
impact for 150, but play Kukui on one of those, and you two-shot that Zoroark.
Didn't you play two Kukuis in there for that?
No, that event I only played one.
Okay.
I actually switched it to 2 after that event.
Because it was so good.
That event I was testing out Molayne. That weird steel supporter.
That was
where
terrible.
You discard a steel energy and you get a trainer card back into the deck or something like that. it was bad. But I was
Yeah.
testing it because I was also testing out a trainer card to tech against the stall decks.
Okay.
The Hood. I was teching Hood, so
Okay.
I could actually attack through Vileplume.
Which
And I was
is important.
And I was playing the lane to get the Hood back if they threw it away without Faba. But it never came up, so I cut that for a second Kukui later, because Kukui actually did come up several times. But the funny thing about that match wasn't just the fact that I beat him really badly on stream. It was they had my name wrong on stream the entire match.
Yes, they did.
Like, one of my friends was a commentator for the match, and he even said, just last week, my friend won a League Cup with this deck. It's really interesting to see it here. I know he's here, probably playing the same thing. And then I won and got interviewed by him and was like, oh shit. That was actually my friend that was playing the deck. We had the wrong name on stream.
I believe that's up on YouTube, isn't it?
I know. I think so.
I could have sworn Kenny pulled it up last time we were able to hang out over at my place
Probably.
here. Okay,
Well,
so
might have
if you
posted
look
about
up the Nick
30
Bailey Open from 2018, it was 18, correct?
19.
19. If you look up the Nick Bailey Open from 19, you find the recording. I believe it was through Tricky Jim at the time. I could be mistaken. You should be able to find it, and it'll say Thomas Fitzgerald versus Daniel Altavia. And then afterwards, just Brad sitting there being awkward with his big old eyes. talking to our good friend Audubon. And it's just hilarious.
Yeah, that was a funny match.
That was
fun.
hilarious. Just it's always fun when you just roll somebody like that with just unexpected crazy crap.
He was so disappointed.
I would be as well.
The look on his face when I got like the turn 3 knockout on his Zoroark because I kukui'd attached for knockout. He was just like, oh. He was so disappointed. It's like there's like 3 stall decks here, and I hit one round 1, and then he hit me, and then he hit another stall deck.
Oh.
Literally, like the next round, he went like 1-3 drop.
Yeah.
Because of just the unfortunate string of events.
Yeah.
And he was just like, why am I playing another one of these nonsense?
Yeah, that's one thing Checkmate did not do well against was stall. Next question is, what are your goals for when live Pokemon returns, when we're able to go back to cups and regionals and all that good stuff?
If I have time, I really want to earn a Worlds invite at least once before I stop playing this game. Like, that would be so nice.
Well, I mean, that's one of the beautiful things of we get to keep our CP that we earned this year. I mean, I don't have enough that it's really going to matter. I'm still going to have to destroy everybody in order to get mine, but at least you have a decent leg up on me.
I was sitting at like 140 something.
And it's over double what I had.
At the first half. Like, I wasn't even halfway to an invite during the halfway point of the season, though. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So, depending on how they end up doing this with the CP transfer, if they make the goal higher, probably still not going to be able to make it.
I believe they already said that it's going to be the same, but who knows with Pokemon? They might change it. I doubt that they will.
It'll also depend as to when they actually start the season up, because if they start the season up during the second half, they might lower it.
Yeah, they might drop it.
But we'll see. In the 2018-2019 season, I had the most CP out of any of the years, sitting around, I think, 340.
That sounds right.
Out of the 500 that I needed. That's the closest I've ever gotten. So I was hoping to continue that success into this year, and I was kind of close if I had a decent Q3 and Q4, but
we'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know.
If you could improve an attribute of your gameplay, what would it be? And then after that, how do you think you can improve upon that attribute that you singled out?
The main thing that I need to work on is actually practicing. I don't play enough outside of tournaments. Like, I'll go to a ton of tournaments. Like, I'll go to a tournament every weekend if there's a tournament every weekend. But I don't play at all during the week. It's hard to when you work second shifts, because then you have to just play PTCGO. But even so, like, I just don't think about Pokemon enough. I don't play enough. Just there's no practice. And that would definitely help my game.
More practice, practice makes perfect. So last question, question number 20. What advice would you give a player who's starting out in the game? And then to further emphasize that, what lesson have you learned that other people can learn from for the game?
Have fun. Play decks that are fun. Don't play the quote-unquote best deck just because it's quote-unquote the best deck. Because if you do that and that's all you do, unless if you're constantly winning events because you're playing that deck, or it just happens to be the deck that you really enjoy playing, it's just not worth it. Like, play what you're going to have fun with, otherwise you're going to end up getting burnt out and not wanting to play the game anymore. There's a reason why I quite often switch up my decks to just goof. Like, I'll go to like 5 or so tournaments in a row playing serious decks, and then I'll show up with some random nonsense because I just need to mix it up to have some fun. Or like I'll show up to like league challenges with the goofy deck and all the league cups with the more serious. And even that, like, I still play like more obscure serious decks because I find those more fun than, oh yay, we're playing the Pika Run mirror for 5 of these 6 rounds.
Yeah, because that's always fun.
It's not fun.
No.
There's nothing fun about that.
No. All right, well, that's the last question. Any other thoughts, any shout-outs you want to give before we call it a video?
No, not really.
All right, so Brad's
I think I went on enough tangents for most of those questions that I don't really need to go on any more tangents. The only shout-out would be ODG, but you're already here. So.
Yeah, you're already here. You're already on the YouTube channel. You've clicked on the link from Facebook or Twitter or something like that. So you're already here for a reason.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be the first edition of 20 Questions with ODG. I'm Evan. That's Brad. He's doing his goofy stare, and I'm going to end this video before he creeps everybody out.